All right, welcome to the first of its kind, world-changing manufacturers network. Lisa Ryan has her ears to the ground and her heart in the game. Get ongoing education and new connections right here with Lisa and the Manufacturers Network. Buckle your seat, listen, and spread the word. Here's Lisa.
Hey, it's Lisa Ryan, and welcome to this episode of the Manufacturers Network podcast. I'm excited to introduce you to our guest today, Jay Foran. Jay helps businesses discover exciting growth opportunities in the Northeast Ohio region, which is why I chose him because, of course, I'm from Northeast Ohio. He works with corporate clients and site consultants and help them navigate through the regional economic development framework, connecting them with state and local resources and emerging technologies. Prior to joining Team NEO, Jay was Vice President Business Development for the Lake West Group, a management consulting firm, and he also served in a variety of key leadership positions with Procter and Gamble. So Jay, first of all, welcome to the show. It's really great to have you here.
Thanks so much. Appreciate the invitation.
Good. So share with us a little bit about your journey and what ultimately led you to serving the people of Northeast Ohio as well as you do.
Sure. So as you mentioned in my bio, I had spent a lot of time with Procter and Gamble, 25 years to be exact, and 20 of those years were on the West Coast. But I am a native of Cleveland, Ohio area, Northeast Ohio. And my wife and I out in California for those years, then we started having children and decided, we wanted to be closer to family. So we came back to the region in 2000. And as you mentioned, I joined a consulting firm. But upon re-entry into the region, I actually got connected to good high school friends and others that were in key leadership positions in the community, in the region, et cetera. And through that, those connections, I found myself getting involved in some of the school rehabilitation programs in the city of Lakewood. They were looking at their schools' buildings and how could they, pivot to make those buildings in a better shape and more conducive to education, et cetera. Ultimately ended up leading the effort to convince the taxpayers that that was a worthy $200 million investment. So that was a great experience. Along the same timeline, I got involved again locally with the formation of a community development corporation called Lakewood Alive. And it's all about engaging citizens in the health and well-being and betterment of their local community. And that organization is still thriving here 15 years later. Well, I was consulting, I was traveling a lot, and basically came to a point where I said, wait a minute, I moved back to Northeast Ohio to be involved. I find myself on an airplane leaving the region. And I certainly enjoy the kind of what I call community and economic development aspects of the things I was doing on a volunteer basis. So when the position at Team NEO came open in 2007, I came to recognize it and thought it was a great match with my interests and how I kind of wanted to create that capstone situation for myself, the later part of my career. And so that's how I found my way to Team NEO. And I've been there since, again, 2007, beginning my 15th year.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about, for those outside of our region who may not be familiar with Team NEO and your mission.
Sure. Well, Team NEO stands for Team Northeast Ohio. And we are a private, nonprofit, regional economic development organization serving the 18 counties of Northeast Ohio, basically going from the Pennsylvania border west to I always say Cedar Point or Erie County, and then south to Mansfield and Richland County, and then back over to Pennsylvania. So a big area, about 20-25% of the state's geography, but about 35 to 40% of the state's economy. And so Team NEO, being private and a nonprofit, was stood up by the major chambers of commerce across the region back in the early 2000s. But in 2011, we became the network affiliate of Jobs Ohio. And so our organization's role is to help companies and the economy grow. So we work with companies that are in the region to assist them in those impediments that are maybe holding back their growth, or if they've got expansion plans, we can assist that way, tying them into Jobs Ohio and state incentive programs as well as local incentive programs. But we can also provide services in the area of talent development, technology adoption, helping them find a site, that sort of thing. We don't just restrict ourselves to companies in the region. We're interested in bringing greater business investment into the region as well. So we work to attract companies. So we travel around the world and tell the Northeast Ohio story, very compelling story of why they want to have an operation here and how that will best serve their business and help their company succeed.
So, and as you're doing that and trying to help companies to locate to Northeast Ohio, what are these companies looking for when they're determining, where to locate their business?
Well, I mean, they all have different requirements. They all have different things to some degree that they're looking for, but they can boil down into what I call three areas. One is, can I make money? And that's what companies are supposed to do, right? Is to make money. And so what are the things that are, assisting them here? Is this a good location for that from a logistics standpoint? Is there access to customers or access to a supply chain? All things that contribute to money. And then, risk. Is there a lot of risk with this site versus another site in another state, in another part of the country? And then lastly, time. How long is it going to take? How much capacity is required of their organization? So again, I think it kind of boils down to money. Can I make money? Is there an opportunity there? Or can I save money by operating there? How much time will it take? Can I do it faster there or with less capacity? And then what's the risk involved? Are there downward or upward risks that I ought to take into account as I think about my location? So usually that's where companies start to lay these regions of the country against each other and start to score them against their more individual requirements. But they all tend to fall into time, money, or risk as far as I think.
Well, and I also think, and you've probably seen this a lot more than me when it comes to people being surprised when they come to Cleveland. We see this when different sports fans come in to watch games in Cleveland, and they are much more surprised than they originally thought they would be about what a great location it is. So I'm sure that also plays a part in wooing people to come here.
Right. It's very, it's incredibly valuable and actually a requirement to be successful, that we have to find a way to get organizations, leaders of organizations to come to the market, to be here, to see what's available, and to see how easy it is to, drive across the region, just from a transportation standpoint, the options that are available. The sites that are available, et cetera. I think once we get them on the ground, our success rate grows, threefold, fourfold. And this is just as true when it comes to talent. Many companies here will tell you, our biggest challenge is getting people to think about relocating here. But once we get them to relocate here and we ask them maybe 5 years later to relocate somewhere else, they don't want to leave. Because they're enjoying, not only are they enjoying a rich career, their families are enjoying a great quality of life. So that combination is what we're all looking for, right? A good career, great opportunities, enrichment, but at the same time, we want our families, the people we love, to be successful too. And so that's where it all works for Northeast Ohio.
Yeah. And as somebody who is a native Clevelander, I've actually never lived outside Cuyahoga County, completely by choice. I kind of joke about the fact that my husband has lived in both Cuyahoga and Summit County. So he's a man of the world. But my whole family has flown the coop and lives across the country. But for me and for my husband, Scott, it's like this, it's such a pleasure to see the expansion of people discovering the secret gem that we have here in the city of Cleveland and Northeast
and some
Ohio.
of our best, and some of our most loyal residents are those that have lived in New York or Boston, San Francisco, Atlanta, all these exciting places. They're exciting. I loved San Francisco. How could you not, right? Great lifestyle. Yeah. I was traveling the West Coast, seeing great cities, but at the same time, what is offered here, called me home. And again, how much house I can get for my money, how far my dollar goes, how many things my family can enjoy as a result of being here is just greater than any of the other places that I've lived.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think, as far as what you've seen, the economic development future looks like for Northeast Ohio?
I think it's incredibly bright. I'm very encouraged. I am in the later stages of my career. I won't be doing this, that many more years. But in many ways, I wish I could be part of it 10 years from now, because I just, having been in it now for almost 15 years, when I first went out to talk to companies in Silicon Valley or Japan or other parts of the world, and I talk about Northeast Ohio or Cleveland or Akron or Canton, there's a little bit of, I don't know, I've heard some things, da-da-da-da-da. Well, I have seen over those 15 years that change really dramatically. I'm not saying that the world knows everything that they need to know about Northeast Ohio. There's still a huge opportunity there. And that's where a lot of our emphasis is going to be, is helping people understand the narrative. But I can tell you that the shade is much farther up than it used to be, maybe down. When you bring Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, the region, into the discussion. Very encouraging.
Absolutely.
And again, I think there's a lot of things going on the ground that, whether it's University Circle or, what's happening in Akron and Canton and Youngstown. I mean, there's a lot of activity. Companies are succeeding. We're just in a great location that's always going to serve us well. And, some of the movement towards remote workforce and things like that that are a result of the pandemic, I think are going to serve this region well when it comes to attracting and retaining talent, which is usually foremost in most companies' minds.
Right, absolutely. So when it comes, aside the fact of picking up your business and moving to Northeast Ohio to increase business or have a more successful business, what are some of the things that you're seeing with the manufacturers that you're working with that they're doing really well, whether it be with their corporate culture or the processes that they're bringing in, or just trends that you have noticed?
Well, there's a lot of manufacturers in Northeast Ohio. 7,700 to be exact. That's how many different manufacturing facilities are across those 18 counties. And, 97% of them would be what we would consider small or medium-sized enterprises. What I see them doing particularly well is in terms of, again, providing a workplace that allows for additional responsibility, growth, personal growth, training. Most of these organizations have, very solid processes in place. And I think a strong example is just how Northeast Ohio responded to the onset of the pandemic back in March of 2020. It was determined that manufacturing was essential. And you saw leadership from these companies that was so impressive. And the response of the workforce, the employees, to their work and what they were providing our society at a critical time, I think was fully illuminated. And I think in many ways it was somewhat of a renaissance for manufacturing, right? It really brought to the surface just how important, how critical, how valuable manufacturing is, and just how strong our region is in that. Back to my kind of opening comments about, we're about 25% of the geography and about 40% of the economy. Well, that's because of manufacturing. That's because of the multiplier effect and the supply chains, and the fact that we're feeding the supply chains around the country and around the world. But again, I think because of the pandemic, we answered the bell and continue to answer the bell. And that is just a very strong endorsement for the manufacturing community.
Well, I think it said not only a lot for the companies themselves, but giving the employees the opportunity to contribute to that mission. One day they're making beer, the next day they're making hand sanitizers, the one day they're making plastics, the next day they're making shields. So it was just, it really, I was surprised. I shouldn't have been surprised, but it was really cool to see the changes that just flipped overnight, and we're able to be that flexible, which we offer here.
Right. No doubt about it. The employees' personal investment in the solution was so obvious. There's so many success stories we could go on and on and on about by company, by people.
Yep. So if it was to come down to, your best tip or hint that you would like to share with other manufacturers, whether it be for their processes, what you're seeing well, or the best reason for them to come to Northeast Ohio, what would that be?
Okay. Well, for manufacturers in particular, I think there's still opportunity, lots of opportunity in the area of what I'd call technology adoption. Internet of Things, some of these new applications of advanced AI, artificial intelligence, other technologies, et cetera. The global marketplace is very competitive, and it's going to be an imperative for our companies to begin to start to bring on these technologies, to automate to a greater degree. To remain competitive. We want to be a leading edge community. The good news is on two fronts. One, there's strong movement afoot in the region, much of which Team Neo is involved in. And if anybody wants to learn more, I'm happy to chat with them. But there's a big movement in the region to begin to take on these technologies, to adopt them, to incorporate them, to integrate them, to be successful with them. The good news relative to technology adoption is you don't have to take on this monstrous project. You can do it. You can begin small. And as you are successful, you can add on to it, reinvest some of those savings, and then continue ratcheting up your organization to be more technology proficient going forward. But so that's, again, I think this is the opportunity. And I also think there's a reasonable pathway for companies to employ without disrupting their business or, bringing a lot of risk to their business by incorporating these technologies.
Awesome. Well, Jay, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they'd like to continue the conversation?
Best way is through my email, and that is J, the initial, Foran, Foran, so 6 letters in a row, JFORAN, at teamneo.org, O-R-G.
All right. Well, again, Jay, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insight and really giving props to our wonderful city of Cleveland and Northeast Ohio. So thank you for being here. I'm Lisa Ryan, and this is the Manufacturers Network podcast. See you next time. Thanks for listening to the Manufacturers Network podcast. Do me a favor and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can grow this network and connect more fantastic folks just like you. You can either send your buddies to the website at manufacturers-network.com or share the Manufacturers Network podcast on your LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you and your industry friends hang out. The bigger and faster we grow the network, the stronger and deeper the community we'll all have. Thanks again, and I appreciate you.